There's been a fire reported in the building. Please proceed to the nearest exit and leave the building.
This is just a drill.
That's 9 to carry. Floor 2 is clear.
Veterans Day, 2010.
Good morning. My name is Eric, and welcome back to Deciphering My Experience. We are here with 4D veteran Michael, who is going to continue his tales on his experiences with, I believe it was last time we spoke, it was on the special that we were attending to with Penny, and there was a term that you had brought up in that conversation. And I hadn't heard you say it before, and it intrigued me. And you had brought up that you were involved with the time mapping project, and I was hoping that we could discuss what that is today.
Now I know, and thanks for having me again.
You got it.
It's always fun talking with you. In how I understood it is you map out the frequency of an event. It's really like Tunguska. That was a naval experiment to get the frequencies correct, because time is not linear.
Okay.
Okay. It's literally all happening right now. And I would ask any scientist to prove there's any other time than this moment. You can't prove it, but you can move through frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's what time is. So in that experiment, which was naval intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
they needed to find exactly, it's almost like exactly what, if I was to send this, which was a 50 megaton nuclear cruise missile, if I was to send this out and explode it over the Siberian forest,
Mm-hmm.
okay, when did it exactly explode? Where did it exactly explode? How did we get all the information and not cause any kind of paradoxes or alternate realities? And that was a really good experiment to get their frequencies correct to when. And what I would say is time, or the movement through frequencies, is the fourth dimension. In other words, we can move X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
The fourth dimension would be the movement through time, but it's only the movement through frequency.
Okay. This is making me think into some stuff that Nikola Tesla said. And he would talk about his non-Hertzian wave activities as not being an act of radiating, because the term radiating carries with it an inherent loss over propagated time and space. And he would say that his activity, that some call scalar or longitudinal, did not have such propagated loss, so he did not like the term radiated. So I feel like what you're saying and like what he's saying are similar, in that much like he was trying to come up with a new vernacular, here the term is 4D, the ability to explain how you get from a point in time and space in 3D to a different point in time and space in 3D in no time while traversing no space. We just get to call that 4D.
Well, the movement, I would say. Now, I'm just guessing.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I see what you're
Yeah.
saying. It's like we're trying to build a vocabulary and a picture here for people to wrap their heads around, because this is new stuff.
If we can come to a common term,
Right.
then we can go from there. It's
Mm-hmm.
really, when we talk about these things, and me not having my memory fully intact,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, I'm going to speak this language.
Right.
And if you understand the language, then we can communicate. Now, okay, I'm going to speak this language. Let's find out what language that is.
Mhm.
And it's it may
Like
be-
this is a pen and a notepad. But if
Yes.
neither one of us had ever seen them before, touched them or anything, if we were having dreams about people using pens and notepads, we'd have to first come up with the vocabulary of our visions before we can even begin to discuss the activity.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's
And
where we're at.
communication. Yeah, communication on what I would say a basic level, not a big. If we have a common understanding of what I'm speaking about, how I call it, and we can have a common understanding of that, and we can go with it, we can change the whole parameter of how I speak if there's a different language we could use. Because we just use that different language. I would say I've done that my entire life. I would speak a certain way because I didn't know how to express what I'm seeing. You know, so as time went on, I learned more and more. 50 some odd years of doing this, I kind of get a little bit vocabulary that I can express. But yeah, it's a great way to understand.
When you were discussing your version of time, and you were saying how like everything's happening and it's a matter of frequency, I agree with you 100%. And this is I want to present that I've had a term for that also that I use, because in my experience, I feel like I've observed it and tried to put it to words. The way I've done it before is I've said, all possibility exists always.
Yeah.
That's kind of the same thing. It's just a matter of how do you get onto the right frequency of that thing that you want to be involved with, because that possibility is happening right now somewhere.
So let's say I'm going to go back to Guska to watch it. I'm there in the very moment. There is no other moment. It's just a different location. That location is actually a frequency, which holds that experience. And that's how we move through time, is that we can adjust frequencies. Now, we can do it, if you're really good, you can do it with just your mind. I can't, because I went back to the 40s. I loved the cars. And literally there had to be a babysitter with me. And he kept saying, come on, Michael, let's go. Don't focus on it. Come on, let's go.
That's funny.
Because I'm focused on the car. Here, they're 1940s cars. They're pristine. To me, it's like, oh, this is great.
I could see that being a good thing.
Yeah, it is for me, but there's a problem with, here, as Michael, I exist. Other people know I exist. In the collective consciousness, there's a reference to Michael, where he lives, what his number is, who he is, and such. That adds to the validity of you being informed. Now take Michael, and he's been trained to move around, and he knows he's consciousness. Now take him to the 40s, where his parents didn't even meet. He doesn't exist. So the collective consciousness has no clue of Michael. It is a way that you can lose what's called your timeline, and you can actually lose form. I've been trained to bilocate, remote view, but if I'm in an area where there's no reference points of Michael, I'm not that good. I can actually lose myself, if you want to call it that. It's something to watch for when you do this. That's why I had a babysitter.
I wonder if that's what happened as of recently, where the corrections have been made for where you had offered your assistance. I wonder if I had potentially just, like you had stated, gotten distant.
What I got with that is that I wasn't using what I could do. And all I did was show the person in that square box.
Right.
I said, look, and I put my hand through the wall. It was concrete. I pulled it out. Once that person started to realize, wait a minute, he can do it.
Right.
Then that consciousness shifts. Then I just grabbed him and pushed him right through.
But that's when you arrived. What I'm saying is I wonder if that's what got me in trouble. If I had gotten distant and that's what got me lost and confined, so to say.
And that's the thing. I a lot of times I stray. I pretty much give up. I say, oh, screw it, man. I know of civilizations of human beings that live in ships and travel off the planet, and I got to walk among them. The very essence of doing that is there's no control. There's actually, if you want to call it love, that you're accepted 100%. Try that. Try to go walk in a big city right now and be accepted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I have a hard time being in this world, knowing what's, if you want to call it what's next,
Mm-hmm.
or what we're finally starting to wake up to. So the movement in time to me is just normal because I've done it all my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I've been connected with the Germans. I met Hitler twice. When you're taken physically, they have to feed you. So my memory was, I'm in the bottom of it. It's like a dome of a base.
Mm-hmm.
And I had fried rice and salad on my plate. I'm looking at chicken and hamburgers. And the hamburgers are really, they're kind of burnt like the way I like them. And I'm going, And all of a sudden this guy walks up next to me and goes, you know, Michael, he goes, I knew how to persuade people. That was my gift. And I turned and there was Hitler. He said, you just need to find your gift. And then he walked away. Now, that was one of the first time I was called Michael because I was physically there.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed his height. First thing I did when I got up, I'm 5'10". I typed in, he was 5'11". Matched perfectly. I did, at that time, I was like, wow, that's pretty weird to have a really good advice from Hitler.
And now, I'm sorry, I lost. Did you, or could you say, in this event, what your age was approximately?
I was in my, I was going to say late 30s, maybe 40s.
Okay, 10-4.
And of course, I have memories. I put them together because he was really well groomed, very jet black hair. Just to me, it shocked me to see how nice he was. And then I met him again when he was old and gray.
Mm-hmm.
And we just talked a bit, and then that was it. That's all the memory I have.
And these visits, experiences, trips, I don't know what you would title them, these were part of the time mapping project as well? Components?
It's because I'm being pushed back in time
Mm-hmm.
to work with, what I worked on was the Bell ship
Mm-hmm.
and some of the technologies, as far as I know.
Okay, 10-4.
So they already had that. It's like a time loop, like the Philadelphia experiment.
Okay.
You're in a loop with that. You pretty much have to, how do you say it? Not have to do it. In a way, you have to
I can
close
follow
that.
your brain.
It's hard for me to say it.
I can picture it in my head, and I've been working with the timeline that I threw up, that I did that whiteboard thing on, and the idea of Gödel's mug with the handle. I really need to draw something up that now shows that there is an even. It's a much more. It's a fractal
Yes.
thing. It's fractals now, because now
Yeah.
yet again I'm going to have another main timeline, and then I'm going to have a trunk line that comes off and goes back in. But I'm sorry, a branch line that comes off the trunk. But that branch line in and of itself is going to have a whole bunch of 20 backs on it, and then that's going to all drop back into another main trunk issue. And you're right. I mean, it gets weird, and time and space is fractal, and that no one's going to ever understand that for eons.
That's the thing. The mind in our consciousness really doesn't accept it. It's
No.
like, wait a minute, this is hard to explain. And yes, there are what I call time loops. And what's happening, as I know it, is we're closing most all time loops.
Mm-hmm.
And as because I'm involved in obviously time travel throughout my life, we will help the ones that can't move on to go back to a frequency where they can live out their lives. Now, in a way, You know, I'll help kick up. Yeah, I'll help kick all the dark ones off. Sure, you're going to go back over here.
I
I'll
never
help.
thought of it that
You
way.
know, it's
That's
all
actually,
designed.
that seems
It's
really
just-
kind, almost like if you could walk up to any person and be like, listen, here's the deal. We have a teleporter. You can go anywhere you want right now. If you're not happy,
It's not here.
where would you like to be? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it is. And the movie Back to the Future hits on points that are absolutely true. To me,
Mhm.
it's right on. There are beings that have to go back to do certain things to make this moment right now exist.
Mhm.
Now, as we move up in frequency, the whole planet is moving up in frequency. It will not harbor this darkness of control and manipulation. It can't. So what happens is these beings will be moved back. The consciousness or the frequency will be like a clean slate. I can't even fathom like being here on Earth and all of a sudden having a clean slate. Not in just that's just the consciousness of others leaving
Mhm.
that no longer have an input on the collective. In other words, it's gone. So literally all darkness and such of ignorance, or that's what I call darkness, evil, is just ignorance.
Yes.
It's gone. To me, I would think, my God, what a quantum leap of awareness or consciousness that every being that's still here in form
Mhm.
can experience. A lot of people call it the ascension and such. That I see it that way. I see a frequency shift that's a major jump
There's
in consciousness. And to me, it would be the realization that you never were really physical, that you were consciousness in form, and that consciousness even will change or work with your very own quote DNA.
I think people are very comfortable in looking in the mirror and seeing the reflection of what's looking back at them and taking that for who they are.
Yeah.
Literally
Yeah.
at face value, at surface level, both figuratively and literally. And it's like looking down a well, looking at the reflection off of the well and trying to assess the value of the well at surface level and never discussing its depth. It would
Yeah.
be very naive, it would be very ignorant, and you wouldn't know much of the well. And I think human beings need to look deeper in themselves to find out their value.
I'm going to use that analogy. I like it because it is a reflection. We are like the infinite ocean that's below the well. We're the
Yes.
formless water.
Mhm.
I'm lucky enough to have, in this lifetime, I got to go out of body quite a bit, almost every night. I fully realize I'm not the body. So I can maneuver through time and space. I'm not attached to it.
Mhm.
I know a lot of people will say, well, you've been through MK Ultra and torture and stuff. And I said, well, I feel myself to be the luckiest man alive
Mhm.
because I'm through it. I hold no
Mhm.
remorse for any being that tortured me.
Understood.
I am not dictated by my experiences because I'm consciousness. I'm not the body.
Right.
And I think that's helped me, it helped me to understand the movement through time.
And there's value to the bad experience as well, technically. I've, as a service plumber, I've shown up to people's homes who are having terrible days, and I'd have to, talk people off of a cliff sometimes, basically.
Yeah.
And I would tell people all the time, don't worry about it. Everything's going to be okay. If it wasn't for rainy days, what would a sunny day be worth? You have to learn how to enjoy a bad day to have the value of a good day. I mean, it would be pointless to have sunny days every day. You would lose the appreciation.
Yeah, I like diversity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously.
Obviously. It makes you grow as well. You're less of a person for not having gone through trials and tribulations. You're a craftsman. There's no way that you can tell me that your skill set would be where it is today if I gave you the ability to go back and remove from your past all the bad days at work.
There's a good one. My boss taught me really well when I first started doing it. Heck, I was in my 30s. And he said, I can put a a light on the moon. Just give me enough time and money. Well, I had in my night job, a dream, and I was like sitting with him in a ship, and we're floating by this entire city. It was totally demolished. And he turned to me and he said, "Can you fix that?" I said, "Hell no." He goes, "Can you wire one house?" And I just sat there and went, of course I can. I start with one house. And if I end up doing them all, of course I can change it all. I can fix it all. But you just do one step at a time.
Yep.
And that's the first step, just like with me speaking out. That's what I had to do.
Yeah.
It was balling up in here. It's like, I got to speak out. Somehow I got to
Same
get this off me.
Yep.
Yeah. And I know it's difficult for a lot of people to understand, but this technology and such has been around before I was born.
Yes.
And I would think that we should have what I would say is, if you want to call it forgiveness, because there's people that died because their house wasn't heated. When we have the technology to heat and energy, we have no problem with energy.
That's
No
part
problem.
that is a component of why I want to talk as well. I mean, because this is wrong on so many levels where we're at in the world. I mean, the
Yeah.
problems with how these programs treated the children, the problems with the return on investment for the people that are paying for these systems that only their grandkids might be lucky enough to someday get a return on that investment. You're right. There's no heating issues. There's no power issues. There's no reason for people to be starving. All of these technologies that are hidden are, like the patents say, Salvator Pais. These are the saviors of our nation.
Yeah, it's difficult for me because I know of this technology. I know there are other human beings, and there are probably millions of them, that move about in time too, but they don't speak up.
Right.
And it's like, okay, I'll speak up. I'm not going to let it. If I know it, I'm not going to let someone else do it. If it's within me and it's burning a hole in me, I have to speak up. And then when I was at Tunguska, this popped in right now.
Go for it.
I watched one nuclear weapon, which was a 50 megaton that blew up, but there was another one that went right on by. And I went, for some reason, when I got up the next morning, I went to my computer and I typed in about dinosaur fossils, and they have to paint them with lead paint because they're radioactive. And instantly I went, oh my God, we must have terraformed this planet. Because we can move through time, we could change things to make, quote, the human race the most dominant.
So
dominant control.
Would you say that in the grand scheme of, the 5 W's of reporting, that would be the why for the time mapping project? Is that their intention?
Yes, to get everything correct, because you send, let's say you get you're at the wrong frequency, there may be nothing there.
Okay.
So you have to get the correct frequencies correct as that event. But then, as I was growing up, I would, as a child, I say, well, Tunguska would be a great time travel experiment because no one died. And everyone knew about it because it was at night and this nuclear weapon blew up. So it's documented. So you read the paper, wow, look what we did. Here's the time it went up. All this information that you just pick up the paper and read. That to me was probably one of the first ones.
Okay.
That kind of got my attention.
Who then, like when you're saying that they were trying to make sure that they were getting correct info for these times and places of events and stuff like that, who was trying to get this correct?
I know that it was definitely military.
Okay.
From even before with the looking glass, I think it was Air Force, and I think it was underneath Princeton.
Okay.
That was the one time where I woke up and I was with the military personnel and the scientists.
So Princeton would be the location, would be your recollection?
Yeah, it would be underneath Princeton.
Okay.
That would be my guess.
Okay.
That's how it felt.
And then, so you said that this was when you were in your 30s or 40s? So
This
I'm
one,
looking for years for my brain.
okay, this one probably was in my 40s.
Okay. So this would have
And
been,
okay, and here's one. I went back in one experience to see myself as 10. I was 10 years old when I was there.
mhm.
And I literally told myself, go ahead, I'll take care of everything. So as a kid, I'm sure I didn't know myself.
Mhm.
There's probably no connection whatsoever because a 10-year-old looking at an old man has no understanding that it
Or,
is actually you.
or do they? I mean, I totally get where your brain
I
is going.
don't know.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I don't know.
Right. No, I can follow that 100%.
Yeah.
This is what the things that my brain has been considering about lately as well, because I'm also getting the feeling that there are times where I'm using the term co-consciousness, where consciousnesses can be in the same place at the same time, because lo and behold, science has taught us that that old adage that you can't be in two places at once and things like that, it's not true.
No,
So
it's already been proven.
right. So
With molecules.
consciousnesses,
Yeah.
can be relocated, bilocated, split, misdirected, and guess what? They can also be cohabitating. So
Yeah.
co-conscious experience, I think, is like a deja vu event where your childlike mind consciousness and your adult-like consciousness have now been brought in proximity. And
Yeah.
my belief, even though I can't prove it, I don't know it, my belief is there absolutely should and would be familiarity. Not necessarily knowing, but a sense of familiarity would be undeniable.
Here's one that I had as a child, and I remember shaking my own hand, but I
Mhm.
thought that was like my higher self or a higher part of me. But that's from the child standpoint.
Correct, right? So
See,
now,
so it adds to what you were just saying.
right, because your
Yeah.
child perspective needs to figure out a way to make an association for that profound feeling. What if it turns
Yeah.
out that's where kids say things like, "Oh, I met an angel and he was so helpful." No, you met you, and of
Yeah.
course you help yourself.
It's high. That I would say just from the dream that I had. Yeah. Because you have to put it in a perception that you understand at that moment.
Right?
Yeah.
If you could go back and meet your 9-year-old self right now, incognito, who's going to be nicer to that kid than you?
That's true. That's true.
You know? And
Yeah.
now imagine that kid's perspective on how he would feel in that exchange.
What? Yeah. It probably. I may be called Santa.
I mean, yeah, that's a
You know?
high probability. You
Yeah.
could make that happen if you chose to. You could dress up like that and go visit yourself on Christmas Eve and have a grand old conversation.
Yep. Yeah. I think it's highly possible. Simply from what I've experienced,
Right.
I know it to be so,
Mhm.
and how the perceptions and stuff work.
Mhm.
It's. And I remember I was with, and this was etherical. I can't pinpoint how this worked. There was these large beings around me, and they brought me to myself as a teenager.
Mhm.
And I remember only from this higher, my older consciousness, trying to get through to the younger one. And the younger one saying, "Oh my God, look at this. I asked for an angel and I get this old man," and I'm laughing. I couldn't get through to him. The beings that were there that were large, they said, "See, so you could see now how it is hard to get through to you right now." Because until we're truly through all of this, I know I'm being constantly shown more in the way of expanding one's consciousness. Until all of this is really, uh, if I'm here for a reason and to expand consciousness, I'm being shown things, and there's a lot there's no way to wrap my brain around. So like when you ask about time, I go, okay, I went there. I was there. How? Okay. I saw a doorway open. We flew the ship through. Uh, there's many different ways I can try to explain it, but somebody knows. Somebody knows the frequencies, the calculations, the power. They know.
It's like you and I discussed, like looking in the mirror versus looking at you, right? Like you probably see yourself differently than I see you, and vice versa. And
Yeah.
so now even these explanations, I like it's the same thing to me. So we're starting to try to explain experiential time. And it's like at this point in my experience, I'm making connections. So literally, like in my mind's eye, when we start having this conversation, the point where I'm at now is I'm having an image in my head of what almost looks like circles and strings and almost like suns and solar flares and things coming off of things and going back and interconnecting. And to me, that's starting to look like a more appropriate image of time and space and how to move.
Well, when a friend of mine asked about time
Versus a
these really-
line, like we've been taught.
and what I tried to, it's like a picture in my mind. Okay, I saw it as a circle.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started to go, okay, this is the frequencies emitting throughout. This is what you call time, but it's always there
Mm-hmm.
for your access. And when you started to say about the loops and the such, I understood what you're trying to say
Mm-hmm.
because I tried to write it on a piece of paper. I couldn't do it.
Right.
I couldn't do it. But
Yeah.
to my understanding, it's right there.
Yeah.
I
What
can't put it on paper.
what we're attempting to do in our experience right now is we're trying to discuss I guess the term would be extra 3D, anything above, so 4 or 5. We're trying to discuss things that are beyond 3D from a 3D perspective using 2D terms and tools. It's very challenging.
It's almost like being fish in the water, trying to explain that you've been out of the water
Mm-hmm.
and you've seen a world. Now go explain that to another fish.
Yeah.
And they would say, no, you can't go out of the water, you'll die.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do this, you can't do that. It's extremely difficult because we're, like you said, we're looking through the eyes of illusion.
Mm-hmm.
This projected reality is a temporary manifestation of our own projections. If you see some people, they have that dark cloud around them, it's simply how they receive. It's like they see the world as a instead of an opportunity and a joy to go hike or whatever, they see it as darkness and evil, and there's people out to get you. Well, I've been through that, people out to get you, and they got me and they tortured me. But I am not a victim of this incarnation.
Mm-hmm.
I do not play the victimhood. As a matter of fact, it has helped me to see beyond my own mind. And it's hard to try to explain to other people that they are much, much more. Love the analogy of the wishing well or the well.
Mm-hmm.
You see the reflection of form on what is formless water. This projection here of Michael is this way is finite. It has an ending. Inward is infinite.
Mm-hmm.
We if we can touch on that, there's no racism. It's all gone.
Right.
And
Right. Yeah. But look how the world wants us to focus in a different direction. They always want us to focus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Nail on head.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it happening with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Presidency, mask, it's
Mhm.
all to divide, external. And once if you want to call it, work out that civil war within your own self, is gone.
Yep.
It's totally gone. And you can actually enjoy Earth, even though it's going through whatever.
I
I'm
find
gonna go for a walk today.
it's very easy for people to choose to exit their homes with a smile on their face. And
Yes.
literally, here's the clincher. Literally, every single opportunity you get to help someone, exercise that and
Yeah.
watch how awesome your day will be. And if
Just saying
everyone,
good morning.
imagine if everyone did that, they just walked out of the house, big smile on their face. Hey, how's it going? Can I give you a hand with that? How you doing? You
Yeah.
need some help?
Yes. And see, now that's what I understand the consciousness of the civilizations I've been involved with, is that it's real. In other words, they have a real caring about you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fake,
Mm-hmm.
and you feel it instantly.
Yep.
And it's, to me, it's I'm blessed to be able to walk in those, and they're not human.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of them not real human, but I've seen more love come from them. I could feel it.
Mm-hmm.
You could feel more come from them.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't take themselves seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I'm sure, if we were to move back in time, where would I go? I would think I'd go way back, see what was really on the planet. Because I've heard somebody's gone back and seen dinosaurs and such.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to the Tunguska blast, when I got back, I was at a base, and the Black Ops guys are laughing. Goes, "You only went back 100 years," and laughing at me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, maybe I'd like to see the dinosaurs, see what they look like. Who knows?
Fair enough.
I know.
I don't know. Certain things I like see at a distance. I would say I've been way too close to polar bears than I would ever want to be, and I get frustrated when people are like, there's not enough polar bears, and they're so cute and awesome.
They're not cute.
No, and there's plenty of them.
They're the only ones I read that they will actually stalk, hunt, kill, and eat a human being. That's okay. Right there, I give up. We got black bears here. They don't stalk you through the woods to eat you. They'll run the other way.
I worked up at a man camp up in Barrow, Alaska, the northern.
No, thank you.
And I was working out on like the spit, like out where the old Navy base was, and we had a camp there. And it was wintertime in Barrow. I mean, it's pitch black. That's it. Sun's down for the winter. And I would have to go do fuel operations and do fuel transfers outside in the pitch black, the blowing wind, pumps moving and stuff like that. And the sea ice had already moved in, so a polar bear could walk right up on me. So I mean, the whole time I'm transferring fuel, I'm like, it's deafeningly loud, and I'm just going like.
Yes, that's one bear that I don't. It scares me.
Mm-hmm.
Because it can calculate. And then I've seen they showed pictures where a bear puts its white paws over its mouth because you can't see him in the snow.
They're even
it knows how to hunt.
Oh, they're mesmerizing when they walk. We get trained to check our personnel out in the field, because when you're on the ice like that, yes, first and foremost, they're very hard to see. But you can be staring right at it, and
not
you
see it.
think it's far away, and you can't tell how fast it's closing in on you, and it goes from being 1,000 yards out to 100 yards out, and then it's
that's too close.
So sometimes, you'd show up to a crew and you'd be like, "What are you doing?" And they'd be like, "Oh, there's a polar bear way out there," and you're like, "Whoa, get in the trucks."
Yeah, it's scary. I've watched grizzlies run down elk on TV and watch them run across the whole valley. Like, my God, they don't get tired. But no, I don't like that.
I had a grizzly get right on top of me at a gold mine one time. I was out in the middle of nowhere, and I was able to scare him off, but he got really close. And if a polar bear had gotten that distance,
you'd have been dead.
No way I was going to get out of there if that was a polar bear at that distance. This thing was.
You'd have been lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's scary.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to die in a boiler room or as bear food.
I want it to be quick. I don't want to watch them tear pieces off of me. No thanks. Yeah, boiler. Ooh.
Yeah. Those are two places I don't want to go out.
Yeah, I'd like maybe crash into the ground from the airplane or something. Quick. Gotta be quick.
I did some training in the submarine service where we were pretty much drowned almost, and you actually get really comfortable with that. So if I actually had my choice, I think drowning would actually work for me. And I know a lot of people might find that crazy, but when you've gone through the experience, it's a comfort zone that I have.
Well, there's actually people that have drowned, and they said once they drowned and they came back, they were revived, said it was real peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
You just let go.
I've gone for 4.5 minutes without air, submerged.
Yeah, that's.
You'd be surprised.
I like to breathe.
Exactly. And you'd be surprised how long the human body can go without air. It's just that you've never been in a situation where you've lacked the ability to exercise that choice. If I remove your option to breathe, you'll become uber aware of how long you can actually function for. And that was, something that, there's only one way to teach someone that.
Yeah, I like to breathe too much. So.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was
God.
actually very empowering, because afterwards you realized that you had this aptitude and skill set, and then the first thing I remember was wanting to go right back in and do it again, because it was one of those like
I
super.
don't know if I could do it again. I've had dreams. I had dreams to show me to let go even the body, and it was a drowning dream.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt in this building. I walked up to look through this bay window, and the whole building went in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And I punched out the window, and of course the water's coming in. And I turned to tell people, "Come on, go this way." And someone grabbed my feet,
Mm-hmm.
and I literally remember drowning. Couldn't
Mm-hmm.
breathe and such. But I instantly woke up, and I went, "Wait a minute, that was weird. I was drowning, but I was okay."
Mm-hmm.
I went right back to sleep, put right back in the building, fell over, punched my way out. I turned around to say, "Come on, let's go." There was no one there. And I let go. And down I went until I ended. I was gone. But I can't tell you what was there.
Mm-hmm.
It was like I existed, but not as Michael.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I've been in this lifetime lucky enough to be trained. And I guess even with military, being trained about to expand your consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example of flying craft. They fly so fast you can't see. You can't dogfight. You have to expand your consciousness so much that in the field of battle, which I was in at one time, you literally, your consciousness expands where everyone's in your field.
Mm-hmm.
So you know who's friend or foe. And you can immediately go to where the foe is. And the way when it was maneuvering, I came in behind this guy and I shot, was light waves. It's a frequency weapon. And it dipped down like G-force, just took light away because we're going so fast. As when he was in my field, I let his thoughts come back my consciousness and fly my craft. So let's say I'm right next to him.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it goes, guy turns, then I turn. Okay. If you're in an aerial fight, that's how it works. Not when you're in a field propulsion craft. When you've now let him fly your craft through your consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
You're attached to the craft
Mm-hmm.
through consciousness. He's now flying my craft. So when he turns, I turn. There's no difference. I then adjust wherever I want to be, take him out. It happens within a second. And you have to be trained to do that. Everything to me is consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even
Especially
playing
in that
in
environment.
Huh?
Especially in that environment.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's the rapid
It's split
thought
second.
wins. Yeah, rapid thought and creativity and.
Yeah, you have to be. You can't be put in the bubble of consciousness. You just, it doesn't work when people are looking for what I would say is the next generation.
That's kind of my thought. So like before, when I said that all possibility exists always, I mean, this is something that's been ingrained in my head for a long time. And I would say this is from doing these challenge dreams. This is why, as a human being, I would say I lived my life the way that I've lived. I think I learned as a kid doing these fantastical training things was that I will be all right in this environment. I've learned all possibility exists always. I'm completely empowered and bring it. Basically was the idea as a child was, I'm gonna do some stuff right now that, is mind is the only thing that could be limiting to it. And now, granted, it doesn't happen as much as an adult anymore for me, but I can go back to dead reckoning of all the things that happened in my training or challenge dreams, as I called them as a kid, up to and including, like, in my mind's eye, I have a whole, like, almost like gamer map of my area that I would say that I would train in, that I would go back to and have my dreams that occurred over and over again. This was a very specific place with lots of things going on in it. It had boundaries, but within it, there was a lot of detail, a lot of activity, a lot of redundant visits. Like, like you said, you die and it come back and you do it all over again and try again and you drown. And but these are they're very interesting environments.
And here's it. Okay, once you start knowing about time exists always now, all time, like you're saying, all possibilities. Now, when I've done this and I've questioned this, okay, even though I have injuries from that event, and I remember it from a childhood's perception, I actually get to see it from this conscious level. And it's like, okay, did the child see it this way or this way? Or since it's all happening now, did I just change it for the child? Because I know I changed a great deal when I would go back into my body when I was 8 years old. So I changed. They wanted me as a weapon because I had abilities to oscillate to different frequencies and such. And I had the ability to run. I would say back then I could easily project energy out of my hands. And they wanted me. So I, as a 50-year-old, went back and took the abilities. And it's to me, it was like, okay, that stopped them going off of the 8-year-old. But they knew about the 50-year-old that has the abilities. So it's like, I'm always, until I die or things change on the planet, I'm involved with it. And it's not something I feel that's bad. I'll help anyone. And it's just helping what I would say is consciousness find its place to be. Whether it be time, moving back in time, however it's going to work. But I've had many dreams of that. And what correlates with that is that from my childhood on, I had multiple dreams of all of a sudden I'm in an opening, a field, and all these ships come. And telepathically, I was told, you got to find your ship. And as a kid, I'd go open hatches and try to fit down in it. And I go, well, can't fit in this one. And I move about. I see that what I see or what I've been shown is that there's maybe an event that takes not only people back in time so they exist, different planets so they exist, but there may be a large exodus from this one. I'm going to stay behind because I know for myself, I would love to see this planet without the ignorance. It would be fantastic. So I know that I'll stick here, but I
wish you
can't
the
count
best
how many
of luck in
times.
your intentions, and I would just say, watch out for the traps, Michael.
Oh, I know, huh? I know, because all my life I was told, and even in my classrooms, they said, you're the last one to graduate. Tell me you're the last one to stay on Earth, because you could stay in form but not be caught up in the form. And so I get to oscillate through different time frequencies, different dimensional frequencies. And to me, it's really beautiful. But if I get caught up in this, because I hear a lot of people, it's good and evil, it's us and them. And it's like you're caught up in the play. We're all consciousness informed, trying to navigate through here the best way we know how. And
I've
this
been told,
experiment.
I've been told by a couple of folks in my connections and trying to get things figured out, some very wise people I've been able to communicate with that have been in these things for a while and making connections. And they told me, oh, geez, I forget where you were just going with it. Oh, that it was multifaceted. That I am also here for a cleanup crew type thing, like that last aspect of the team, and that I can't do my next thing until I first deal with that. That this cleanup has to happen now. That's like priority, and there's a bunch of people here doing the final cleanup, and that once that's
Yeah.
done, then we'll get to the next thing.
At times I get to walk through places that are not like cities, but they're, this one was an underground facility. And there was a woman there, I forget what she was making, a quilt or whatever. And she said, "Oh, hi, Michael." And I went, "You know me?" Because I didn't recognize her. And there was a lot of people around. And she goes, "Yeah, you're part of the ground crew." And I went, "Okay." And that was all that I had there.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Sure.
Can you picture the quilt?
It was darker colored. It was there was almost like a basket. She had baskets. She was in dark clothes, earth tones, and the quilt was darker. And she was just making it, as far as I can see. Yeah. She knew me. There's a lot of, that's the thing, a lot of people know me. Even here, I think I told you the time I went to Walmart and I walked in and a guy came up and said, "Hi, Michael." He put his hand out to shake my hand. And I went, I didn't say it, but I looked at him like, "Who the hell are you?" He instantly turned around and walked away. It was probably standard operating procedure for, "Oh, you still don't know. You don't know we work together."
Stuff like that happens to me here and there, and I'll pull my girlfriend to the side and say, "Hey, so-and-so just walked up and knew exactly who I was."
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
some random stranger or something, like, and when I have people come to my house, like whether it's the cable company or whatever it is, like people, you're right, like they greet me by name, and it seems like almost on purpose, like they're just trying to let me know, like I know who you are.
Yeah, or see it if you, yeah. Yeah.
And I've actually engaged this before, because I get that it's a loose or veiled threat, but I don't really care. So it makes me laugh, and what I oftentimes will tell that person, because they get that smirk on their face, like I know who you are.
Yeah.
And I tell them, I said, just remember, I'm the important person here because I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
There's a reason for you not to know. And and here's my Groundhog Day. I think I told you this one. This is how they do loops. I was taken. Oh, I woke up in the morning. It was 5:59. Turned to 6:00 a.m. My dog was there. This was 20 years ago. Dog was there. I went, "Oh yeah, he's gonna sleep for another hour." I instantly went to sleep. I woke up. He was gone. And I was living in a mobile home out in the woods, which was really cool. But I walked down the hallway and I saw a woman with closing up what looked like gas valves. And I go, "Who are you?" And she said, "Well, I'm your cleaning lady." I said, "I don't have a cleaning lady." And I went right for her. I grabbed her by the wrist. I had a slider there. I didn't realize this was a door at the time. Now I know it was a replicant on a different planet. The door opened. There's a woman about 6, 7 feet tall, blonde. And I noticed I can get past her. So I darted out. And she's saying, I said, "You better tell me what the blank is going on." She goes, "You're not ready to know." I said, "No, you're going to tell me what's going on." She telepathically told me, "You're being trained. You're not on Earth." And once I'm not on Earth, I went, "Holy cow." And I turned around. There was 2 guys about the size, about 9 feet. They picked me up, put me in a white doorway, and it was like a Stargate. Instantly right back to bed. I literally jolted myself awake, saw my dog there. I went, "Whoa," turned around and looked at the time. It was 5:59, and I watched it turn to 6:00 again. I don't know how that can be, because how would that, I was put back to even before the time they took me. So it's hard for the mind to try to explain it, but that's what happened.
That's, to me, those are those deja vu-y things. These are like these reinserts, and I mean, you don't have to explain it. You're experiencing it and verbalizing your perspective, right? That doesn't mean that you have to be able to rationally explain everything, right? It would almost be like, it would be like if you
I
would
can't.
give me the first-hand experience, if you told me you drove a car from here to LA, okay? That experience does not mean that you understand how to build an engine.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, the level of detail that sometimes people try to put to things. You don't have to be able to explain everything. You're just discussing your personal aspect of it. Like, this is
Yeah.
what I saw. I could do this, and the thing went this and that, and
Yeah, I've had many experiences like that, and
I think you
I
and
was
Penny
told.
should talk about the piloting stuff, because I hear a lot of the stuff that you're saying in what she says as well. And I don't think there's a lot of you guys out there to communicate with each other. And I think you guys might find some value about just having like a pilot co-pilot conversation.
Yeah, throughout my life, I've been what you would call a test pilot.
Mm-hmm.
You really wouldn't want to go for a flight with me. I'm not that gentle,
Mm-hmm.
but that's how on that level, I get to fly quite a few.
That's because you're a
Different
hot rod
types.
guy. It would be the same
Yeah.
thing if I gave you the keys to my car. I know it's going to come back having been.
I would test it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you give me a 4-wheel drive, well, what's 4-wheel drive for? Let's go in the woods.
Yep.
Now, that's me.
Mm-hmm.
And my father was the exact opposite, kind of like an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was. And he would constantly want to figure things out. And I'm like, no, let's just run with it. We'll figure it out later. That's how I was.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned, I wish I would have paid more attention, because he would talk about frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
He was airborne radar, then worked in Ampex, and that was connected with mind control. But he would way before the internet, he picked up a phone line. We're just putting a phone on the wall. He goes, we can run the world on this. And he tried to explain to me, but I was a kid. I want to go out and play. I don't want to know about frequencies.
Geez, well, that's basically, you're getting right into the angle of my grandfather. I would say was probably in the exact same situation, because he was a telephone technician for Ma Bell in Manhattan, like at the time that Ma Bell was growing technology. And he was like, I guess for the time period, like really technically advanced. I mean, that was cutting edge for data transfer at the time, Ma Bell trunk lines and systems and stuff like that. And just like your father could pick up a phone line and tell you a lot more about it,
Yes.
I show you what my grandfather did as well.
Yeah. And so it's funny. It's the common threads that we all seem to have.
Mm-hmm.
Ones that connect with, like if you want to call it mind control or being taken as a child, there's common threads.
Mm-hmm.
Parents, your environment. And if you do more and more research, I find more and more people that I meet, it's like, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. And you could say the same, because it seems like there's certain experience with parents or whatever they have. Like my one friend's dad, the CIA, on a slate, I looked at waves of light, and they did have like a little curvature to it.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend was trying to explain to me, that's the waves of light. Try to explain that to someone back in the 70s.
Yep.
What the hell are you taking pictures of that for? Yeah.
I do some
Show
cool
your
things
character.
with copper and magnets and stuff like that, and Tesla coils and lights. And I mean, there's all kinds of ways that you can show people that the science and the physics as presented to them is, it's observable for the most part. But the fact that we can bend those supposed rules to get different function shows that they're more like guidelines than a functioning standard model.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of scientists, of course, nowadays are funded, and you get funded by your theory. So you're trying, to me, it's like they're trying to
Or
prove
you
their
get
theory.
funded by someone who's rich enough to start an organization to send out a science team to produce the answers to the question the way they want it answered.
Yeah, it's like
Like
what
the
I would say.
Rockefeller Foundation might actually, I mean, I'm just throwing names out there. Let's
Yeah.
just pick any foundation, right? They may turn out to have a vested interest in selling products that fight global warming. They
Yeah.
might do the research and development to have the product line at the ready to distribute. Then they just need to convince everyone that there's global warming. So then they just need to pay for some science down at places, you know, like Antarctica, to say things like global warming's decimating the continent, but then not discuss the fact that it's getting colder and colder. And it's insanity. What can be funded and what can be said is in the name of science and not a rich person's opinion
Yeah.
or
Yeah. And
agenda.
I was just, when you talk about Antarctica, have you noticed that, because I had an experience where I was with a team and we went to what was like a pump house. And I looked out the door from the pump house and there was the flags, long stakes with flags on them. And I could watch them actually move. Like it in the middle of it, they were moving. And some of the guys are saying, "We hurry up! It's dangerous here. We need to get going." And I said, "Well, doesn't matter. We're getting this done." And I guess I was the hard ass, but it was a pump house, and I can't remember what we were doing. But my main focus was that movement of the ice.
Mhm.
That what got me. So in what I explained, do they have the flags?
There are spots where there are flags for different varieties of things. There certainly are pump houses for sure.
Oh, okay.
But the idea of the flag being in the ground and moving, I mean, that's not happening at the South Pole per se, because the ice is rather stationary from your immediate perspective. But I mean, if you were in another location on the coast where I guess ice could be breaking up, potentially, is my mind's eye. Or if you were actually at the South Pole Station in a pump house and you're seeing the poles moving, then that activity is just something above 3D.
Yeah, and it could mean the poles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, right.
Yeah.
Hard pressed for me to define your experience. I'm just playing with it, you know. From my perspective, I mean, I've been in a pump house at the South Pole Station and I've seen a flag. But
Okay.
mine
Yeah.
was blowing from the wind and was not moving in the ice.
It was actually, I could see the ones close to us were not moving, but then some would bend in, and that's what got the guys a little excited. They're saying it's moving.
I wonder if maybe your perspective was trying to wrap the logic around the winds being really bad. Because I mean, I'm familiar with being at the South Pole in the middle of winter, and the winds are bad, and it's going to be challenging to get back from where you're at.
These
And
type of talks.
the flags are absolutely utilized for us to pay attention to. So
Yeah.
they're spaced in a certain way. We learn where they're located, and the rate at which that flag is moving is an indicator of the wind speed. The sound of that flag that it makes as the winds increase is also an audible indicator if you can't see it. So your aspect of observing the flags is accurate, first and foremost.
Yeah, I think it just talking about it and having different understandings. What I've noticed with each event, as I become more and more aware, just like that one, it was very quick, we have to get this done. But now talking more, it opens up different ways that I saw things.
Yes, so
that
now
I could have seen.
Here would be like my perspective. So if I was in the pump house is called the Rodwell, and it was pumping our domestic water up. It was, say, maybe 3/4 of a mile away from the elevated station. So I would have to walk out there and check that facility daily. And that's, I mean, we need domestic water, right? So it was about 3/4 of a mile away, but it was connected underneath the ice to an ice tunnel. We had utility tunnels underneath, so there's a whole array of tunnels. But I would walk along the surface to get to the pump house. We would also have to run the tunnels every day to inspect them as well. But the surface task would bring me out to Rodwell 3, which is pretty far. And then on the way back, the concern would be like, so let's say you're at the entry, the door for the Rodwell. There's a high potential that, like, I mean, so from the perspective, if you open that door and you see, I can see this flag and I can see this flag, but now they start to disappear rapidly. I mean, that's your indicator right there. Like, things are getting bad. I only got 2 flags that I can see right now, you know, but if I can see 6 flags or 7 flags, everything's cool. Now that's not necessarily an area where we had a flag line 2 being the pump house. We did have a flag line that ran to an area called the dark sector. And those flags—
Because it's dark.
yeah, it was darker than dark.
Yeah.
And the flag line there, they were set at 8 feet apart. And there were times where for the majority, it was crystal clear out, and you can look down and you can see that whole flag line all the way down to the facilities lit under the stars, and it's beautiful. There's other times where you take 1 step away from the flag that you're at, and now you can't see any flags.
No, thanks.
Right.
No thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. It helps me to different ways to interpret it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed sometimes with my dreams, there will be an event
Mm-hmm.
that I'll see here. Something maybe
Mm-hmm.
in my waking state, all of a sudden, a great number of dreams fall together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a real large shift in my awareness. Now I totally see different.
I just thought of something. Conditions at South Pole could be very odd. So there were times that you just made me think of where, how do I put it? There'd be a low blowing wind of carrying dense snow. So imagine you're walking around outside and there's snow blowing across the surface, but it would be from your knees down, not above. So it would actually look like a flow, okay? Like you're walking in a white river. So if you were staying still, it would look like you're in a white river and everything's just flowing past you. So technically, if that was going on and I was to take my gaze and look over to where a flag is, if I was to just focus on that, there would be a way to look at that would make it look like the flag is moving through.
You could have a perception of the
Correct.
movement. Of
Correct.
Relative,
Yes,
relative
you could.
movement.
You could have a relative movement to that stick where it would be that type of atmospheric condition where the wind was blowing low and the snow was dense, because there were times where I would be walking and yes, I couldn't see from my knees down.
That's weird.
It was in the snow.
Now it must blow large snow drifts then.
Oh yeah. Drifting is a major issue.
Yeah, okay.
And visibility as well, because now also when you're walking in that, you can't see the ground. It doesn't mean the ground's necessarily flat, so you wipe out a lot. Like all of a sudden you hit a pothole or you hit a hill the wrong way, you jam up your knee.
Ouch.
Yeah, you can't see where you're walking. Oftentimes,
Yeah.
there's different conditions that like you have no idea where your footing is. You fall down a lot.
Yeah, well, it hasn't been icy yet so far, but just taking a walk out in the winter,
Mm-hmm.
you got to have some good shoes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy to walk, so I can't even imagine being there.
It's not
in
that
the, and in the snow's moving. I'd probably have that vertigo or whatever.
Oh, sometimes it's really disorienting, and
yeah,
to the point where you step stupidly and you fall, and afterwards you totally misjudged it. You just like
I could imagine that. I could see that.
It's weird. It's like sometimes it's like being hammered but sober. So it's funny because it's like, oh, this is what it's like when I'm drunk.
But I'm totally wide awake. I know
I'm wide awake and I feel hammered because I keep falling over. So it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it probably hurts though.
You have a lot of insulation on.
Oh,
And the
that's
snow-
true.
And the snow is actually really, really soft. It's there's no it's
Oh, the powdery stuff, real
and
powdery.
even just the ice on the deck. It's more like styrofoam than ice that you would think of, because it's so light in its structure at the South Pole because of the humidity conditions. Like
Yeah.
it's very light, like styrofoam. I could take a piece like the size of a truck tire and throw it at you, and it's like it weighs
Just
nothing.
poof.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just it's nothing.
Yeah. Not like here when we used to have, it's called California concrete.
Yeah, no.
It's like an iceberg, but we haven't been having that. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully we'll get some this winter.
Hey, I wanted to get a question on the time mapping project before. You were discussing, I had asked you why, and you had brought up that it was for getting correct info in frequencies, okay, which I
Yes.
can follow. But to me, that sounds like people looking to dial in a machine for future functions. That's
Yes.
not that. So to me, that's not necessarily the primary mission. I get that might have been the perspective of
no.
the mission. So now, right. So getting it
Yes.
dialed in, I mean, I understand the purpose of that. I mean, you want to be accurate,
Okay.
but now back to what they're really doing.
And from what I understand and what I've gathered, of course, I've had multiple visions of people being pulled off the planet.
Mm-hmm.
They need to get, actually need to go back to literally start the system that is failing now. What it is one giant time loop. When that consciousness of money and control and manipulation on a mass scale has to end, and it will.
Mm-hmm.
They need to realize this planet's frequency is moving on. They cannot hold the control. It doesn't exist. Let's say this cannot exist in this frequency.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally different. So the planet's moving up. They will take people, as from what I've seen, and push them back in time. A lot of them, and here's one, and this, what's his name? Tom Hanks. Some cryptic message. He said the gate is good. Immediately, what I thought was the Stargate.
Mm-hmm.
I know that it is totally functional to move people back
Mm-hmm.
on a massive scale, not small,
Mm-hmm.
massive scale. So for me, if you were to ask me, just my personal opinion is we're getting ready for an exodus from this planet
Mm-hmm.
of the ignorance or the darkness, because it can't move on. If they wish, if they let go of all this control, manipulation, help people instead of, quote, being billionaires,
Mm-hmm.
then yes, they can move on. But this is a quantum leap in consciousness.
I
So
can't.
they have made this to pull the ones that don't want to, they still want to control man.
I can't
But
help but
once
think
they,
this is similar to like lost civilizations in the past. That just
all of a
seems.
sudden they're gone.
Yeah.
Wow, how's that happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So that's the, what you say, purpose or why,
Mm-hmm.
that I would say that's exactly what it is.
Okay. Okay. Big timetable stuff.
And it's happening now with everybody. And if you, even within your own self, and here's one I had, I was with my father and I was yelling at him for some reason. And when I woke up that night, I went, my God, am I still harboring something with my father? He passed away 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, I guess so. The frequency of the planet moving up will move everything out of your subconscious,
Mm-hmm.
all of it. It can't stay. You can't hide from all the thoughts you've had and all the things you've done. I take full responsibility as Michael, right here, right now,
Mm-hmm.
to all the things I've done in MK Ultra
Mm-hmm.
and I've killed. I take the responsibility. I don't push it aside, because at one point I was that one that did it.
There's nobody fleet-footed enough to outrun their own past.
Yeah, true. That
It's
is
not
so
possible.
true.
Yeah.
No.
Good luck with that.
Nope. Yeah, just like go ahead and outrun your shadow.
Yeah. Exactly.
Give it a good shot.
Yep. You got this.
Yeah. So for me, I take full responsibility for everything I do.
Mhm.
They're parts of my memory, parts of me,
Mhm.
I don't shun it away at all.
I think maybe that's a good way for people to get involved with the idea of shadow work.
Yeah.
These are the parts of ourselves that are, for all practical purposes, the lesser or the more challenging to deal with. But guess what? You're never going to get away from it. You might
Yeah.
as well
And
jump in 2 feet first.
exactly.
Yeah.
You're going to be shocked. And I
Mhm.
was shocked at the words I was using to my father.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? It
Mhm.
was nasty,
Mhm.
but it has to go. And that's what I think, like you want to say above is below. That's part of it.
Mhm.
Even Jesus said, we'll do this and more. Our consciousness is now starting to be, hopefully for masses, breaking up
Mhm.
because we've been controlled for our entire lives.
Mhm. I think there's going to be a lot to be said for an as above, so below, or a micro and a macro,
Yes.
inner, in and outer. I mean, all of these things are going to come to the conversation. And, I think most people are in that comfort zone of discussing things scientifically. So here's the angle that you're going to have to come through in the not too distant future for science. Go study fractals and holograms. Because if you want
Yeah.
to know where this world is going to be in conversation soon, that's the vocabulary you're going to need, folks. Learn about
Yeah. And
holograms, learn about fractals, fractal math, fractal geometry, because this is going to be the format.
it's scientists already know it.
Mhm.
They know how things work,
Mhm.
but they shun themselves from certain things
Mhm.
that will not. They've been totally demonized
Mhm.
because you can't fund them.
Do you remember the National Geographic magazines?
Yeah.
I know you do, right?
Yeah.
This is so funny. Do you remember when they came out with the one that had the cover that was the first one to ever have a hologram on it?
No. No, I didn't.
Oh, that was like a
Darn.
big deal. It was a big deal back in the day. They had
My grandfather kept those.
yes, correct.
Ah,
And there was a
dang.
National Geographic that came out. It was a big deal. It had a hologram on it. And it was like, bam, big science issue. And I wound up working in New York. I had a customer who was the manufacturer of that hologram for National Geographic. And
Wow.
he had a system in his basement to manufacture holograms. And I got an education from that man. And this is
That would be neat.
this is what happened in my plumbing career. I constantly had customers that were like, come here, check this out. Look what I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's a book.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I've literally had people put books in my hand and say, read that. And I'm like, oh, no, it has nothing to do with me. Wrong. It
Mhm.
blew me away how many similarities in everything.
There was
So
a time in my life for years, as a rule of thumb, which I didn't communicate to people at the time because it was like an OCD thing, and I was getting swamped to begin with. Anything that somebody handed me to read, I read it.
oh, really?
Even if I knew beforehand, I don't like this. Don't come to my door. Don't hand me this. Stop it. But then because they handed it to me and I was in that zone where I felt like I needed to learn from every angle, I was reading everything.
But you find, I remember asking a friend of mine to give me a book on, I think it was chakras or whatever.
Mhm.
I wanted to find out more about
Mhm.
energetic bodies, if you want to call it. He handed me a book I read before. And I went, okay, reread it. When I reread it, I found one saying that hit me perfectly. And I had to reread that whole book, word
Mhm.
for word. I didn't skip.
Yep.
And I found it, which was perfect.
Mhm.
So, like with you, you automatically read that book. They
Mhm.
hand it to you. Yeah. I find even if it's just one saying,
Mhm.
it's worth reading the book again.
This book right here, Stalking the Wild Pendulum, which I believe you said you have
I got
inbound.
it. Yeah.
So this book I came across back when I was jumping around reading and reading and reading, and I would get to a spot in a book and I'd say, now I don't know what they're talking about, and I'd put a post-it in there and go try to find a book on that topic that I'm now confused on. So this book, I just walked into the bookstore one day confused. trying to figure out how I'm going to regain my footing on the direction that I was going. And I walked down the aisle, and I literally just said, where am I going to find the book that I need? I turned to my left, and I looked on the shelf, and I just saw this book right there looking right at me. And I picked it up, and guess what? It happened to be the exact book that I needed.
Yep.
It just so happened to be that I had no idea of the Stargate programs, nothing at the time. Nothing.
It's funny how coincidences happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I read the book, have it in my possession, eventually meet my handler / customer in the future. And then in the process, because I don't realize I'm getting handled, I go, hey, you should read this book that I just read. And he's like, really? You've been reading that, huh? Let me see that. Let me see that. And I go, oh, here, take a look. It's a great book. I never got it back.
Oh, really?
But this is not that book. That one was removed from me by my handler who wouldn't return it. So I had to go buy it.
What a guy.
Yeah.
What a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is a great book, and I highly recommend that everybody read Stalking the Wild Pendulum. But
Yeah, I've gotten into a little bit of it.
Woo, it's a good one. It's a good one.
And I've noticed that I've read books. I mean, when I first woke up many years ago, I read everything I could read to find out what the hell's happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
And years have gone by, and then all of a sudden my consciousness reaches a level that now I understand those books totally different.
Yes. A lot of
I was just reading them, taking in whatever, but now I understand them totally different.
There's so many books that I would have to go back to and reread again, because all of a sudden you read a different book and you're like, hold on a second, that means that other thing that I thought is now different.
Yes.
So I have to go back and check, because that means this is different and that's different. And sometimes I'll have to go read a whole other batch of books again, because it's like, you know.
Yeah, and that's funny thing. What if it's you're the one that's changing?
Yep.
That actually blows people's mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you don't realize, you've changed, you've opened up. Now this book doesn't mean something to you, or it means even more.
Yes.
You're the one that changed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's amazing stuff. I love it.
That's like, to me, like with the Bible, I've spent a very good time studying that, and at face value, at the surface of the well, you can actually disprove almost everything at surface level, because it's not the truth. But too many people stare at the surface of the Bible and scream about it being the truth. And it's like, no. If you look at it in more depth, there's a lot more value to that book than you're giving it consideration for.
Yes.
I'm not saying it's not an important book. I'm just saying that most people really have no clue, because they're looking at the surface value of the Bible.
Most people only scratch the surface of even things going on now. They won't dive into some. And I'm gonna I got to probably get a new computer, but I need to do. I put together films where I saw ships and drones and the things that, like a 55-gallon drum,
Mm-hmm.
the monitor. I've seen those.
Mm-hmm.
My computer was lost in a flood, gone. To the apartment upstairs flooded down on me.
Mm-hmm.
There was no one in the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And the manager said, well, it was deliberately done. Here's the pipe.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say hundreds of hours went bye-bye.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't back it up or anything. But I would like to do it, because if I was to tell someone to do something, look here at this point in a movie, you'll see this.
Mm-hmm.
99% won't do it.
Right.
They won't do it.
Mm-hmm.
They want it presented to them.
Yep.
Fine. And I think that's what I need to do again.
There you
I
go.
lost hundreds of hours. Yeah.
Start getting into some production, Michael, and it'll be like that whole show me thing, like you were saying.
Yeah.
I think it's
There it
great.
is.
All pulling together. Many hands makes light work. So I mean, if you could do that, I mean, proof is in the pudding. Let's show them some stuff.
Yeah.
I've been making great connections with folks lately, and it seems like everybody agrees that they all feel like we're being pushed back harder, like the evil forces that be, the them, or whoever, whatever you want to call it, is up to no good, even worse than ever. And everybody seems to want to gather up and push back. And I like that idea of unity in the community and digging in and saying, no more. Everybody's getting silenced all over the internet right now. I believe
Oh my God.
start sharing like crazy just for the purposes of flooding it. I mean, I don't care about like the numbers, so to say, for the sake of me having the numbers, but you know what? Screw the system, screw the algorithm. Take this video and share it everywhere. Spend hours dropping links to videos for people that are sharing information that's being shadow banned. I mean, everybody knows that it's happening. Well, what is everyone going to do about it? Just sit there and watch it
Yeah,
happen?
it's action.
Well, yeah, it takes action. You know, all
Yeah.
you have to do is share links all day. Just take an hour, grab your coffee, and share links all over the place and bust the
Yeah,
algorithm.
it's coming, like you say, the dark force. I call it the ignorance, the dark force.
Mhm.
They will not stop.
Mhm.
And from what I understand, they're going to push as far as they can push
Mhm.
until they have to leave.
I'm finding folks that are looking to make that next step to bring things to the next level, which I think is great. I'm getting asked to do guest appearances on more radio shows. I've been offered, I believe, I'm going to talk to someone later about it. I believe I've just been offered a spot on a radio show as well to be a host. So again, more opportunities to take information
To
from
speak out.
you and me and present this to people, more forums and bigger platforms are presenting themselves, and more people are lining up to throw their hat in the ring to share their stories. I have more and more people coming forward that want to share their stories to me behind the scenes, and I think it's fantastic. There's one person in particular, a girl that I had become friends with because we, through chatting, had figured out that we had shared some of the same challenge dreams. So that format, that
wow.
area where I told you I had created to do my function in, there's an area in the water where there's this big savage buoy. And I have a lot of recollections of going there and having to learn how to function better in that environment through lots of failures. And her and I got into communications about sharing that experience and her perspective and my perspective and our memories. And she's, you know, trying to get her schedule dialed in and her life dialed in to come on air and discuss it. But I can't wait to talk to her about that and bring that to everyone, because these things happen.
Yeah, and I think it's more and more. It's not going to stop.
Mhm.
This is not a false flag, if you
Mhm.
want to call it.
No.
This movement, if you want to call it, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
is not going to stop.
Energy interconnectedness is a simple way of looking at it to make
It's
it a little bit more palatable. That's all. We're learning that we connect on an energetic level more than we noticed before.
oh yeah,
Mhm.
it's unbelievable, and it can be extremely beautiful,
It can be.
and it
I
can be
mean,
nasty.
yeah, there's all kinds of potentials, and I think this is
Yeah.
where we need to be concerned, because I think you're right. Naturally, it's up to the user normally, and just like every other choice a person makes, they can choose to be positive, they can choose to be negative, but the energies to be wielded are, you know, up to the user. But I think what we're seeing contemporarily, unfortunately, is that the powers that be have left or forced the people to be ignorant of their true strengths or potentials or choices, and have, through technology and misinformation and deception, basically absconded all of this and have prevented people from being who they truly are. And it sucks. And you're right.
Yeah. That's a good word.
It's just that. It sucks. You know, we're in a bad
It's a
spot
perfect
because of
word.
who people are, and they tried to put it, you know, right to us. And I think there's just an awakening. I think it's becoming very apparent that you can't take the interests of a minority and try to apply them so liberally to a majority that disagrees.
It's worked so far,
True. That is so
but
true. This is so
but
true.
the awakening as we wake up to more and more realizations of, well, look at what they're doing here. Look what truth is.
Mhm.
Uh, they cannot keep the illusion of control going.
Mhm.
Literally, when what I see is the consciousness leaving to go back,
Mhm.
even the ones that work for to control if they're standing here in this and that all that's gone, that literally shifts their own consciousness.
Mhm.
Because it's like if you were to be on a, let's say, a planet that you're a Christian and there's no other Christians, you would have a very hard time. Or if everyone's a Christian and you're not.
Mhm.
This is how the collective consciousness works to focus on one person, an individual, which we are.
Mhm.
By speaking out, we're standing up saying, I don't see it to be that way.
Mhm.
They've done it, many have done it in the past, and it's been pretty harsh. Now more and more people are seeing past it, and that helps with the collective.
Absolutely. There's a total difference in the collective because we're no longer in the times where people like, Bill Cooper or Phil Schneider are being hunted down and assassinated for what they
In
say.
their front yard.
Yeah, I mean, those times are over. Thank goodness. You
Yeah.
know. But in all due respect to gentlemen like that came before us, there's a responsibility to the mission. There's a truth that has to be told. There's a people that have to be saved.
And for me, it was about choking on all the stuff I have seen.
Correct.
You were the avenue that showed up to give me that opportunity.
I'm very
Well, thank
happy
you.
to help with that one, Michael. And that makes me actually really happy because I see this as others do. It's a community thing. It's a passing of the torch. It's a sharing. I mean, you're a tradesman, man. I get this. You see work going on, and you're bringing your tools. So I love it.
Yeah, and
I'm
that's
the
it.
same way.
That's it. And you do have a personality and a personable expression, interchange. So yeah, I think you'd be a great personality on the radio or such.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. I'll remember that when I talk to the guy about it and the potentials and stuff. And I think you'd be a great guest to have on as well. I mean, I don't even know what this guy is going to ask me. I'm sure it's going to be cool. But either way, I mean, I deal better with filling air when it's a communication instead of a monologue. So
Yes.
maybe you'll grace me with your presence as a guest and we can continue our conversations all the
One
time.
never knows.
Yeah.
Just leave it to the universe.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But how much time have we been on right now, actually? Because time always.
I'm thinking we're past an hour and a half.
Oh, wowzers. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I don't want to keep you forever. And the chats are
Yeah, I
always
think we've covered quite a bit. I don't know anything major.
Well, I'm glad to always talk about the time stuff and the jumping around, and I think we always make some connections and have good, enjoyable talk. I will be chatting with that guy shortly after this about the radio stuff, so I'm excited about that.
Cool.
I spoke with Tony Rod. Are you familiar with Tony Rodriguez? The SS
Rodriguez?
veteran? It's a lot of people call him Tony Rodriguez, but
yeah, I've seen him.
Rod Riggs, technically.
Oh, okay.
I've
seen most everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like Penny Marshall, I've watched all of them. I may not have met them, but I know. Yeah.
I got to be on air with both of them the other day, and it was fantastic because Tony is for like me to you almost, so to say. It was like Tony inspired me to come out. Like I went through the avenue of Penny because Tony wasn't a person looking to speak to people, I guess you would say. But it was through paying attention to his story and making connections there that I was like, oh no, I need to talk to someone about what I know.
And that's the thing. I think it's within everyone. Mm-hmm. I just got this weight that kept choking me almost. That you better speak out.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It was for me.
The best times that I feel, Michael, right now are, I would say, after or during and after these communications that I have with other people that I would say are 4D or SSP veterans, because we're peers. I mean, I can speak to you, right? So, hey, technically we have ESP because I have images in my head that you understand, and we don't actually have the words, but we're communicating and saying things like, "I know what you're getting at."
Exactly. You don't have to map it out because I've been there.
In a way, we're honing our ESP in these communications.
Yeah, and of course, like the last time I know that now I met an aspect of you in my quote night job, so that helps with more and more connections, different levels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's
Yep. And I've actually been going in another direction. I found some other folks. Akvil Sava and Rich West are two people that are, I would say, mavericks in this mending of the SSP mentality. And I reached out to them, and I'm going to try doing some work with them as well. So I'm looking forward to the idea of bringing more tools to the SSP community to mend things, to make repairs and move forwards. And I'm really happy about that. So I like the idea about
that would be good.
yeah, I think we're going to have some real harmony coming very soon.
I think it's just starting to bubble up. People are starting to somehow get that feeling that they have to speak out.
Yeah.
I wonder where it's coming from. Yeah. Yeah.
Hold on, let me turn the dial up.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly, that's it. It's like when you have to
we're
do
coming
something
together.
like that, it'll come out.
All right, Michael.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for coming.
Fun
And
as
all you
always.
folks out there, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, share videos. Do your part to help this community get out to the rest of the community. And many hands make light work. So grab your mouses, grab your keyboards, pick up your phones, hit some buttons, and move this information around. Help us out. Have a great day, Michael.
Okay, we'll see you. Thanks again.
Bye.
Bye.